Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive into a topic that affects a huge part of the population, menopause. And we're going beyond just like the typical hot flashes and, kind of surface level conversations to really explore how menopause can affect your metabolic health.
Right.
So that means everything from cholesterol to blood sugar, and even your risk for those serious conditions like heart disease and stroke.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting because we've got a ton of sources for this deep dive.
Wow.
We've got research articles, clinical guidelines.
Wow.
We even have a survey of women's personal experiences with menopause.
Oh, cool.
To help us kind of understand and break down this complex stage of life.
Yeah, I think that's so important to get that personal perspective too. Because, I think a lot of times the research can feel very clinical and removed from what women are actually going through.
Yeah, for sure.
So the mission for this deep dive is basically to equip you with the knowledge you need to understand how menopause can impact your metabolic health.
Right.
Especially if you're experiencing it yourself, or even if you know someone who is.
Yeah.
We'll be exploring all sorts of things like the risks and benefits of different treatments like hormone replacement therapy, which we've all heard of.
Right.
And even looking at some alternatives to HRT.
Yeah.
And really trying to focus on the evidence-based insights.
For sure.
And bring in diverse perspectives as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's fascinating how menopause, with all the hormonal shifts going on, can really impact how your body processes energy.
Right.
And it's not always straightforward.
Yeah.
There are so many factors at play.
So let's jump right in. Imagine your body is going through this major shift hormonally.
Yeah.
And it can start to affect how your body is processing energy.
Yeah.
And that can actually potentially lead to this thing called metabolic syndrome.
Right.
And you might be listening thinking, what is metabolic syndrome?
Yeah.
Well, it's this cluster of conditions that happen together.
Yeah.
Like high blood pressure, high blood sugar, extra weight around your middle.
Yeah.
And just not so great cholesterol levels.
And the thing is, with metabolic syndrome, it's not just those, it's not just numbers on a chart.
Yeah.
It significantly raises your risk for some serious health concerns later on.
Right.
Like you mentioned, heart disease and stroke type 2 diabetes.
And this is like long-term, right? This isn't just something
It's
that...
long-term in the moment.
Exactly. Exactly. It's about your, well-being for the long haul.
Totally. So it's about understanding what's going on in your body and taking proactive steps to stay healthy.
Absolutely.
And then when we talk about menopause, we know it's not like a one-size-fits-all experience, right?
Right.
Some women will go through natural menopause where their ovaries gradually slow down hormone production,
Mm-hmm.
but then others experience surgical menopause.
Right.
And this happens when the ovaries are removed, often for medical reasons.
Yeah, and that's a really important distinction because those two types of menopause
Yeah.
can actually have different effects on metabolic health.
Like, for example, some research actually suggests that surgical menopause might be linked to a higher chance of developing metabolic syndrome.
Oh, wow.
Whereas with natural menopause, the link is a bit more complex.
Okay, so things are already getting nuanced here.
Yeah, a little bit.
So what can we do? Well, let's dive into one of the most talked about treatments for menopause. Hormone replacement therapy.
HRT.
HRT, yeah. Basically, it involves taking estrogen,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes progesterone as well,
Right.
to replace the hormones that your body is no longer making.
Exactly. And for some women, that can be like a real game changer.
Yeah?
Especially for those intense hot flashes and vaginal dryness you were talking about.
Totally. And it's
Right.
not even just about those symptoms,
Right.
right? Like HRT can have a positive impact on mood
Yeah.
and bone health.
Absolute bone health is huge.
But of course, there are those potential risks to consider, right?
Right.
Like blood clots, stroke,
Mm-hmm.
certain types of cancers.
Yeah. So it's a very personal decision.
It really is. And, I was reading some studies about HRT and its effect on cognitive function and even dementia risk.
Oh, interesting.
And honestly, the findings are kind of all over the place.
What?
Especially for women who start HRT later in life.
Okay.
Like some studies suggest there might be a benefit.
Right.
And others point to potential risks, so it gets a little confusing.
Yeah, I think the key takeaway there is that HRT is a really powerful tool.
Yeah.
But it's not a decision to be made lightly.
Right.
It's definitely a conversation you need to have with your doctor. Taking into account your own personal health history,
Yeah.
weighing the benefits and the risks.
Oh, totally. And on that note, what
Yeah.
about women who have had breast cancer?
Hmm.
Is HRT like completely off the table for them?
Yeah, that's a big question, and it's
Yeah.
one that comes up a lot.
Right.
Generally, HRT is discouraged for women with a history of breast cancer because there is that potential increased risk of recurrence.
Okay.
And some studies have shown an increased risk, particularly with certain types of HRT.
So it's not a blanket no,
Sure
but
not blanket, no.
definitely a situation where you need to
Yeah. Talk to your doctor.
talk to your doctor and really weigh those risks.
Absolutely, individual risks.
Okay, so for women who can't or choose not to use HRT, what are the alternatives? There have to be other ways to manage those symptoms, right?
There absolutely are, yeah. And there's actually a whole range of non-hormonal options.
Okay.
A great place to start is always lifestyle changes.
Okay.
Things like, regular exercise, a balanced diet,
Yeah.
managing stress through things like mindfulness or yoga.
It sounds like healthy habits that everyone could benefit from, honestly.
You're right. These are all things that are good for us anyway, but they become
That's so important.
even more crucial.
Yeah. During this transition.
During this time, yeah.
And then, there are also medications like SSRIs and SNRIs
All right?
that some doctors will prescribe to help manage like those hot flashes and mood swings. I've also heard that acupuncture can be helpful for some women. Is there any science to back that up, or is it more like anecdotal?
There is some evidence
Yeah.
that acupuncture might offer some relief from menopausal symptoms.
Okay.
But, a lot of the research in this area is still evolving.
Yeah.
Some studies have shown positive results. Others haven't been as conclusive. So,
Yeah.
if you're curious about it, it's definitely something to talk to your healthcare provider about.
Makes sense. Now, there's also this new option that I came across in the research that I want to ask you about.
Okay.
It's called neurokinin receptor antagonists.
Okay.
And basically, these are non-hormonal medications
Okay.
designed to target the mechanisms in the brain that trigger hot flashes.
Interesting.
So some early research is showing some promising results,
Okay.
with trials suggesting that they might actually reduce the frequency and severity of hot flashes.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, so it's still a little early
Yeah.
to call it like a game changer.
Yeah.
But the initial research is really encouraging.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, so more research is needed, but these could become a really valuable tool in the menopause management toolkit.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's exciting to see these new possibilities emerging.
It is. It is.
Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about vaginal dryness and painful intercourse.
Okay.
These are symptoms that I think often get overlooked,
They do.
but they can have a real impact on a woman's quality of life.
Absolutely. Yeah, these are common and often really distressing symptoms.
Yeah.
But thankfully, there are treatments available.
Okay.
Things like sexual counseling and psychosexual education can be really helpful for a lot of women, as can like topical vaginal treatments.
Yeah, what about topical vaginal estrogen? Is that a possibility for women with a history of breast cancer, or is that like totally off limits?
That's a question that really needs to be addressed on a case-by-case basis with your doctor,
Yeah.
because the risks and benefits need to be carefully weighed.
Right, yeah.
But in some situations, topical estrogen might be considered, especially if other treatments haven't provided enough relief.
So our sources also mentioned vaginal DHEA and ospemifene as potential options.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on those?
I mean, they're both, interesting possibilities, but the research on their safety and effectiveness, especially for women with a history of breast cancer, is still somewhat limited.
Yeah.
So again, it really highlights why that open dialogue with your doctor is so important.
It sounds like there are a lot of options out there,
There are.
but navigating them all can feel pretty overwhelming,
Yeah, it can be a lot.
especially if you're not feeling well
Right.
and you're just trying to figure out like what's going to work for you.
Absolutely. And that's why, advocating for your own health during this time is so important. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Do your research and find a healthcare provider that you trust and can talk openly with.
That's huge. I think that's so important, to feel like you can have that open communication
Absolutely.
with your doctor. Okay, so we've talked about, the various treatments.
Right.
But I'm curious about the role of lifestyle choices in managing menopause.
Yeah.
Can making healthy choices really make a difference in how you experience this transition?
They absolutely can.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, I would say lifestyle choices are really foundational.
Wow.
Think of it this way. Hormones are a part of the equation,
Mm-hmm.
but they're not the whole story.
Oh.
What you eat, how you move, how you manage stress,
Right.
all of these factors have significant impact on your menopause experience.
So tell me more. Like, what are those key lifestyle factors that we should be focusing on?
Well, maintaining a healthy weight is huge.
Okay.
Excess weight can actually worsen hot flashes, and it can increase your risk of developing that metabolic syndrome that we were talking about earlier.
Right, so it's all connected.
It's all connected, yeah.
And I imagine quitting smoking is also like high on that list.
Smoking not only makes hot flashes worse, but it also significantly increases your risk of heart disease, stroke,
Right.
and so many other health issues.
It's amazing how like all of those healthy habits that we always hear about become even more crucial during menopause.
It's true. It's all about supporting your body through this major life transition.
Right.
And, don't forget about calcium and vitamin D intake for bone health.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Menopause can increase your risk of osteoporosis, so making sure you're getting enough of those nutrients is really important.
It's like adopting this whole body approach, right? Like taking care of your physical, your mental and emotional health.
Exactly. Menopause isn't just about managing symptoms.
Right.
It's about, embracing this new phase of life and really thriving in it.
Okay, so before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to explore one more thing.
Okay.
And it's this compound called resveratrol.
Okay.
And one of the studies we have suggested it might be a potential game changer for women going through menopause.
Interesting.
So resveratrol, it's a naturally occurring compound.
Mm-hmm.
You can find it in grapes, red wine, some berries. And it's gotten a lot of attention for its potential health benefits.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
So is it all hype or is there real science behind it?
I mean, there's definitely some promising research out there.
Okay.
Particularly in the context of menopause.
Okay.
Studies suggest that resveratrol might have a positive impact on blood flow, inflammation, and even cognitive function.
Wow, that's impressive for something found in grapes.
I know, right?
And specifically for women going through menopause, studies have shown some really interesting results.
Like what?
So one study reported a 10% decrease in overall pain.
Okay.
And a significant improvement in blood vessel health.
Wow.
Which is measured by something called flow-mediated dilation.
Okay, and I have to admit, I'm not quite sure what flow-mediated dilation means.
Yeah, I had to look that one up too.
Can you break that down for us?
Yeah, so basically it's a way to measure how well your blood vessels are working.
Okay.
Which is super important for heart health. So a positive effect on flow-mediated dilation is definitely a good thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then what about the effect on brain power? Our sources mentioned something about cognitive enhancement.
Oh, yeah.
With resveratrol.
Yeah, so one long-term study actually reported a 33% enhancement in overall cognitive performance.
It's huge.
I know, right? For women taking resveratrol.
Wow.
So
should we all be drinking more red wine now?
Hold on there.
Yeah.
While red wine does contain resveratrol,
yeah,
it's also important to remember that alcohol consumption comes with its own set of risks.
Yeah, that's a good point. Moderation is always key.
Moderation is key.
So how else can we get our resveratrol fix without overdoing it on the wine?
Well, there are resveratrol supplements available.
Okay.
And they allow you to control the dosage a little bit more precisely.
Got it. But as always, it's important to talk to your doctor before starting any new supplements.
Absolutely. Just because something is natural doesn't mean it's risk-free or right for everyone.
Right. And everyone's body is different.
Exactly.
So getting personalized advice from your healthcare provider is always the best way to go.
Always the best way to go.
Okay, listeners, that wraps up part 1 of our deep dive into menopause. We've covered a lot of ground from metabolic syndrome and HRT to non-hormonal alternatives and that intriguing resveratrol.
Yeah. And I think, we've learned that menopause is a complex transition.
It is.
With a wide range of potential impacts on your health.
Yeah, and it can feel overwhelming.
Absolutely.
But the good news is that there are so many ways to manage symptoms, reduce risks, and truly thrive during this new phase of life.
Absolutely.
So in part 2, we'll be diving into the importance of personalized care.
Okay.
And we'll be exploring what this U.S.-based survey reveals about women's experiences with menopause and the treatments that are available.
Looking forward to it.
So stay tuned. There's more to uncover as we continue to help you take charge of your menopausal journey.
For sure.
Welcome back. As we were looking through all this research, one thing that really struck me is just how important it is for women to really advocate for their own health during menopause.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
It's such a time of change physically, emotionally, and it's easy to feel lost or even unsure of where to turn.
Right. And especially when you consider that, for many women, menopause is happening alongside other major life events, like caring for aging parents, maybe navigating career changes. It's a lot to juggle.
It is.
And unfortunately, as we saw in one of our sources, a U.S.-based survey,
Yeah.
many women don't feel like they're getting the support they need from their healthcare providers during this time.
This survey, it really highlighted that gap.
Mm-hmm.
It focused on women's experiences with menopause and treatment.
Okay.
And it found that a large majority of women, something like 87%, reported experiencing bothersome symptoms.
Wow.
But only about 35% were actually receiving treatment for those symptoms.
That's a pretty significant difference.
Yeah.
So what are the reasons for that?
Yeah, so the reasons for that gap are varied. Some women said they didn't feel supported by their healthcare providers,
Okay.
while others simply chose not to pursue treatment.
Right.
But what I found concerning was that many women reported feeling dismissed or not taken seriously by their doctors.
Mm-hmm.
And this often led them to either delay seeking help or just resigning themselves to kind of suffering in silence.
That's really disheartening to hear.
Yeah, it is.
It really underscores the need for better communication and education within the healthcare system
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to women's health and particularly menopause.
I think we need to move away from just managing symptoms
Yeah.
and more towards empowering women to really take charge of their own menopausal journey.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
So how can we encourage that sense of empowerment?
Well, I think it starts with open and honest communication between women and their healthcare providers.
Sure.
Don't hesitate to ask questions, share your concerns, and talk about your experiences.
Yeah, and don't settle for a doctor who minimizes your symptoms
Right.
or makes you feel like you're overreacting.
Exactly.
It's your health, and you deserve to be heard and respected.
Absolutely.
And sometimes finding a healthcare provider who specializes in women's health or menopause management can make a world of difference.
Oh, for sure. It can be so helpful to have someone who really understands
Yeah.
the nuances of this transition.
Absolutely. And there's a wealth of information at your fingertips these days.
Right.
There are so many reliable resources available online, and organizations like the North American Menopause Society or the British Menopause Society, they offer evidence-based information that you can really trust.
That's great. And you know what else can be really helpful?
What's that?
Connecting with other women
Oh, yeah.
who are going through similar experiences, support groups, online forums, even casual conversations with friends.
Right.
Those can all offer invaluable insights, validation, and a sense of community.
Totally. It's that reminder that you're not alone in this.
Yep.
There are others who understand what you're going through.
Yeah, and knowledge is power, right?
Absolutely.
The more you understand about menopause and how it might impact your health, the better prepared you'll be to make informed decisions.
Right.
And advocate for your well-being.
So let's take a moment to recap some of the key takeaways from our deep dive so far.
Okay.
We've learned that menopause is a natural biological transition, but it is marked by these hormonal shifts that can really impact metabolic health.
Right. We've explored that connection between menopause and metabolic syndrome,
Right.
highlighting how important it is to manage those risk factors like high blood pressure, unhealthy cholesterol levels.
Yeah, we talked about all of that.
We did.
And we also took a deep dive into hormone replacement therapy.
HRT.
HRT, yeah. Discussing both its potential benefits and risks.
Right. Especially for women with a history of breast cancer.
Yes. And we also explored a wide range of those non-hormonal treatment options. Everything from lifestyle changes to medications to complementary therapies like acupuncture.
It's great that there are so many options out there.
Yeah, and we even touched on those potential benefits of resveratrol.
Oh, yeah, that natural compound.
Yeah, which shows some promise in improving blood flow and even enhancing cognitive function.
That's right.
But perhaps the most important takeaway from all of this is that menopause is a personal journey.
Absolutely.
There's no one-size-fits-all approach.
Everyone's experience is different.
Totally. And it's about finding what works best for you.
Right.
Based on your health history, your preferences, your goals.
And that requires that open communication with your healthcare provider.
Yeah.
Doing your own research and being willing to advocate for your needs.
It's about approaching this new phase of life with knowledge, with confidence, and with that sense of empowerment.
Exactly.
And I think it's also important to remember that, menopause isn't just about managing symptoms.
Right.
It's also a time for self-discovery growth, new beginnings.
It's a chance to, reevaluate priorities. Maybe focus more on your health and connect with your body in a new way.
So before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to leave you with a thought-provoking question.
Okay, I like it.
Given all that we've learned about the interplay between hormones and metabolic health and lifestyle choices, how can we use this knowledge not just to manage menopause, but to actually optimize this transition and thrive in the years beyond?
That's a great question. I think it starts with shifting our perspective.
Okay,
Instead of viewing menopause as a time of decline or loss,
right.
we can choose to see it as an opportunity for transformation and renewal.
I love that it's about taking those changes that our bodies are going through
Right.
and using them as a catalyst for positive change.
Exactly. It's about nourishing our bodies with nutrient-rich foods,
Hmm.
staying active in ways we enjoy managing stress, effectively making sure we're getting enough sleep.
Right. It's about creating a lifestyle that really supports our physical and mental well-being as we age.
That's
That's such a powerful vision.
Yeah.
It's about reclaiming this stage of life and creating a future that feels truly fulfilling.
Absolutely. And I believe it's a vision that's attainable for everyone.
Okay, listeners, that's it for part 2 of our deep dive into menopause. We've covered a lot, but there's still so much more to explore.
There is.
So in part 3, we're going to be wrapping up our discussion with a final thought,
Okay.
challenging you to think about menopause in a new light
I love it.
and embrace all the possibilities that it holds.
I'm excited.
Stay tuned and get ready to embark on a journey of self-discovery, empowerment, and vibrant health as we continue our exploration.
Sounds good.
Welcome back to our deep dive into menopause and metabolic health. As we wrap up our exploration, I keep thinking about how menopause is often seen as like this ending,
Right.
when it's really a new beginning.
I agree. It's a time of transition for sure, but
Yeah.
it's also a time of incredible potential for growth,
Mhm.
reinvention, and like a deeper connection with yourself.
Totally. We spent a lot of time in this deep dive talking about managing symptoms and reducing risks and finding the right treatments. But now I want to shift the focus to thriving.
Okay.
Like, how can women use this transition to really step into a new chapter with energy and vitality and a renewed sense of purpose?
Well, I think it starts with recognizing that menopause isn't something to be feared, you know?
Yeah.
It's a natural biological process
Yeah.
that's been happening to women forever.
It's a part of life just like any other stage.
Exactly. And while it comes with challenges, it also presents these amazing opportunities.
Okay.
It's a chance to redefine what health and well-being mean to you.
Yeah.
At this point in your life, it's a chance to really prioritize self-care,
Mm-hmm.
nurture your passions, and connect with your body in a whole new way.
It sounds like reclaiming your power in a way.
Absolutely. You know, you can shed those old roles and expectations that no longer serve you
Right.
and embrace this new sense of freedom and authenticity.
So how can women tap into this potential? Like, what are some tangible steps they can take to not just manage menopause, but truly thrive during this transition and beyond?
Well, first and foremost, cultivate a positive mindset.
Okay.
Instead of looking at menopause as a time of loss, choose to see it as a time of transformation and renewal.
That's easier said than done sometimes, though.
Oh, I know it's not always easy.
Especially when you're dealing with like hot flashes and sleep disruptions and mood swings and all of
I
that.
get it. I get it.
Yeah.
But remember, you have the power to choose how you frame this experience.
Okay.
Try to focus on the positive aspects and all those opportunities for growth and change.
And remember, you don't have to go through this alone.
Oh, that's so important.
Right. Like, lean on your support system.
Absolutely. Talk to your friends, connect with other women who are experiencing menopause, or even find a therapist
Yeah.
if that feels right for you.
Totally.
There's strength in sharing your journey and finding support along the way.
And let's not forget the power of those lifestyle choices we were talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we know they can play a huge role in how you experience menopause.
They really can. This is where things get exciting.
Okay.
Because by focusing on your well-being as a whole, you can dramatically improve your overall health and really reduce those menopausal symptoms.
So tell me more. What are some of those key areas to focus on?
Well, nutrition's a great place to start. You know,
Okay.
nourishing your body with whole, unprocessed foods,
Mm-hmm.
prioritizing fruits and vegetables, lean protein, healthy fats.
And what about those phytoestrogens we were talking about?
Yes, phytoestrogens, those plant compounds that act a bit like estrogen in the body,
Right.
they can definitely be beneficial.
Okay.
Foods like soy, flax seeds, chickpeas are all good sources.
But it's always a good idea to talk to your doctor before making major dietary changes.
Absolutely. What works for one person might not work for another.
Right.
It's about finding what makes your body feel its best.
Okay, so nutrition's key. What else should we be thinking about?
Movement. Regular exercise is so important for maintaining a healthy weight, boosting your mood, improving sleep, and supporting bone health.
And it doesn't have to be anything crazy intense either, right?
No, not at all.
Like even a brisk walk or a yoga class a few times a week can make a difference.
Exactly. Find activities that you enjoy and that fit into your life.
Totally.
The key is to move your body regularly.
Stress management feels like a big one too, especially during menopause.
Oh, you're so right. Stress can make those menopausal symptoms so much worse.
Yeah.
So finding healthy ways to manage it is crucial.
So what are some things that people can do?
Well, things like mindfulness meditation, deep breathing exercises, spending time in nature, engaging in hobbies that you love.
Yeah.
Those are all great stress relievers.
And good sleep is so important too. And I know that can be a challenge with all those night sweats and hormonal changes.
Sleep is absolutely essential, and it becomes even more crucial during menopause. Establishing a regular sleep routine, creating a relaxing bedtime ritual, avoiding caffeine and alcohol before bed.
Right.
Those can all help.
And if those sleep issues persist, talk to your doctor because there might be something else going on that needs to be addressed.
Right.
So beyond all these lifestyle pillars, it's also important to nurture your emotional and spiritual well-being too, right?
Menopause is a time of deep inner transformation. It's a chance to connect with your intuition, explore your creativity, rediscover your passions.
I love that.
It's about tapping into all that wisdom and experience you've gained and sharing your unique gifts with the world.
It's a time to redefine what success and fulfillment mean to you.
Absolutely.
And create a life that truly reflects your values.
Yes.
So as we wrap up our deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with this final thought. Menopause is not the end. It's a new beginning.
I love that.
It's a chance to rewrite your story, embrace your power, and create a life that's even more vibrant and fulfilling than before.
It's about stepping into your wisdom, your strength, and your most authentic self.
Thank you all so much for joining us on this deep dive into menopause and metabolic health.
Yes, thank you.
We hope you've learned something new and feel empowered to navigate this transition with confidence and grace.
Absolutely.
Remember, you are not alone. There are resources, there's support, and there's a whole community of women out there who understand what you're going through.
That's right.
So embrace this journey and thrive.
Yes, thrive.